Hey book besties, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kenzie and welcome to Kenzie's Reading Corner. Today, I am bringing you guys my February and January reading wrap up just because I didn't film one for January as well as I didn't really read a lot in February. So I thought I would just kind of combine the two. It's been an interesting couple of months. It's been an interesting start to 2025 and the amount of books that I have read kind of prove that. I have been in quite the reading slump. It's been pretty bad. It started in January and went through literally most of February. I was sick for most of February. It's been a hot mess of a year, but it's all fine. It's all good. We are still pushing through, and I'm just going to talk to you guys about the books that I read. So I'm going to be telling you what they are, what I rated them, if I would recommend them, and just a little bit about each book. So to start us off, at the beginning of January, I did a 24-hour reading challenge. I said I wanted to do those quarterly. We'll see if that actually ends up happening, but I did them with my friend Jazzy. I will put her name as well as her socials on the screen so you guys can follow her if you want. She's very cool. I love her so much. But we did the 24-hour reading challenge together. So I'm going to discuss those books that I read during that challenge, and then we'll get into the rest of the books. I read 3 books during that challenge. It was actually very fun. I really enjoyed it. I got through more than I typically thought I would. One of them I did listen to on audiobook. I did an immersive reading type of thing. It was also my first memoir, so that was just so exciting. I really wanted to push myself and read different genres this year. So the first book that I read / finished, I was already 90% of the way done with this book in December. I just didn't get to finish it before the new year started, so I did finish it during that challenge. It is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. 5 stars, 10 out of 10 would recommend. This book was so good. It's definitely literary fiction. The writing style is beautiful. The way that I tabbed and highlighted and wrote all in this book should be criminal. I'm not even going to lie. It deserves jail time for how badly and how much I annotated this book. It was just that good. Like I said, the writing was beautiful. I was hooked from the beginning. Oh my goodness. It is about our FMC Addie who makes a deal with the devil. It has consequences. She is basically immortal. She can do whatever she wants. She gets to live as long as she wants. The only caveat is that every time someone leaves the room or turns their head away from her, they don't remember her. She can't leave her mark on the world. She basically just goes through life just being forgotten until one day she meets this guy in a bookstore and he remembers her, and their love story is so good. This is so character driven, and I would say it's a subplot of romance because both characters are absolutely just, oh my gosh, Henry, the man that he is, and oh my gosh, the reason why he remembers Addie, what he goes through, what she goes through. It is dual timeline. So if you're not really into that, I would kind of just say going into it that is in here, but it's so good that I would still try to read it. It's just so good. She learns how to love herself, how to find ways to make her mark in the world. Like I said, their love story, the character development and the character arcs that go on in this book are absolutely gorgeous. V.E. Schwab did such a great job with this book. If you have ever seen The Age of Adeline, it kind of gives that vibe, but better. Then we have Expiration Dates by Rebecca Serle. I read In 5 Years by her and was absolutely obsessed with that book. It is so good. It talks about grief and just friendship and all the things. And I think I want to do a reread of that book this year because I think I would appreciate it 10 times more than I did the first time that I read it. I rated this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was good. I genuinely enjoyed it. It was a cutesy little romance. This is about our FMC who every time that she gets in a relationship with someone or she meets someone, she gets a slip of paper with their name and an expiration date on it, and she kind of just lives her life every time. She just enjoys the time that she has with that person, and then one day she gets a name and no expiration date, and so she thinks that this man is going to be her end game. It's going to be the person that she ends up with, the person that she marries, as well as her best friend is involved in this, and it's just I don't even know. I was on the phone with Jazzy when I was reading this, and I was just kind of going through the motions of reading this. It kind of put me on a roller coaster because there were times I was really happy and really giddy, and then there were other times where I was bro, what is going on. At one point, I think I wanted to throw the book. So it's good. I would say maybe to whether I would recommend it or not. It just kind of depends on what you're in the mood for. It wasn't a bad book. There were just parts of it that like kind of just didn't do it for me, or that just really, really irritated me to my core. And then lastly, for that 24-hour reading challenge, we have Dinner for Vampires by Bethany Joy Lenz. This was my first memoir that I have ever read. The immersive reading, listening to the audiobook because she narrates it, and just like reading the book while listening to it was chef's kiss. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I rated this 4.5 out of 5 stars. It just didn't give me that 5-star feeling, but it was still so good, and I would still definitely recommend this book. It just talks about her life as she is on One Tree Hill, as well as just like her experience while actually being in a cult. Oh my goodness. I don't even know how to explain it, but this was just so good. And like I said, 10 out of 10 would recommend. Going into the other 3 books that I read during the month of January. So after the reading challenge, I then read Bad Blood by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the 4th and final book in the Natural series. And if you know me, you know I love this series. I ate this series up and left no crumbs. These are such bingeable books. Even though this one is on the thicker side, it's still, you read it so quickly. It keeps you engaged the entire time. You're rooting for these characters. This series is amazing. If you don't take anything out of this whole video, take this, which is to read this book. 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10 would recommend. I love this series. I love these characters. I already miss them. I think about them on a daily basis. This whole series is about these 4 teenagers who have supernatural abilities, and they help the FBI solve cold cases. And the ride that they go on through each book is absolutely insane. And you are really just sitting there with them. You're shocked with them. The plot twists are plot twisting, just like all of the things that you could ever want. It's like a true crime meets YA murder mystery. Criminal Minds, like all the things. I have no words. I genuinely loved this series. I loved this book. I thought this was the perfect way to wrap up the series. I just felt like I got closure, and I love these characters. And this also has the novella 12 in it, which I also genuinely enjoyed. I don't think I'm going to rate novellas just because they're too short, and I don't feel like I can give like an accurate rating on it, but I still genuinely enjoyed it and would recommend the book anyway. But I loved this so much, and like I said, 10 out of 10 would recommend. Next we have Saving Six by Chloe Walsh. This is the 3rd book in the Boys of Tommen series. This book follows Joey and Aoife. Oh my gosh. When I first read this book, I rated it a 5 stars, and then after thinking about it, I think I docked it to a 4.5 or a 4-star, just because honestly, I love Joey Lynch. What he had to go through his perspective, and getting the beginning and the backstory to him is so heartbreaking. I love this boy. I love this man. He just deserves so much better. Aoife had a love-hate relationship with her. I thought she was kind of selfish in this book, and that's why I had to dock some points, because she just really irritated me at times, and I feel like that's such an unpopular opinion because everybody loves Joey and Aoife, and I'm not saying that I don't like them. I just think that in this book, she was just way too selfish for my liking with things that he was going through. And in her defense, she was just trying to protect him and get him away from his situation at home. But he also had siblings that he felt responsible for and that he was trying to care for. And she just didn't take that into account. I feel like she just didn't care. And because of that, it just like, she lost some points for me. But I still would 10 out of 10 recommend. If you have not started this series, or if you have not continued it, please continue it. I cannot wait to get to Redeeming Six. I just needed a little break before I got into that. But again, tabbed it. Sorry, guys, I did not mean to flick you guys off. Anyway, tabbed it and loved it. I genuinely enjoyed it. I buddy read this with Jazzy, and it was fun. I mean, it was not fun. There was nothing fun about this book. I don't even know why I said that. Just be prepared to cry and have tissues and to have your heart broken in all of these books. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to go back into this world. And then the last and final book that I read in January was Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I had to jump on the train. Me and Sarah buddy read this. Again, I will have like her socials and stuff on the screen as well, so you guys can follow her. Love her. But this was so good. 5 stars. 10 out of 10 would recommend. If you have not started this series, what are you doing? I'll wait. Let's start it. I'll wait. I'll give you guys a few seconds. Did you decide to start it? Good, good, good. Xaden, love this man. Number one, book boyfriend. He took that spot effortlessly. There's no competition. Violet, wow. This romantasy, I think it had the absolute perfect balance between the romance and the plot and politics. This book was amazing. I definitely understand why people love it. This book, so good. Would recommend to everyone. I don't even have any bad things to say about this book. I loved it so much. I am so bad at giving synopsises. Like this one, I couldn't even tell you without spoiling something. So I'm not going to. And I'm sure you can, it's been all over Book Talk. So I'm sure like there are plenty of videos that could explain what this book is about and what this series is about without spoiling it. But oh my gosh, I cannot wait to read Onyx Storm. I haven't gotten to it yet, which is kind of criminal, but I just needed a break from fantasy for a minute, and I'll explain why when I get to the books that I read in February. But oh my gosh, please read this series. Now, getting into the books that I read in February. I read 2, and there's nothing wrong with that. I fell into a reading slump. It was so bad. At the end of January, I started Iron Flame, got 50% of the way through the book, saw a spoiler about what happens to Xaden at the end of Iron Flame. And if you've read Iron Flame, you know what happens to Xaden at the end. So it literally pissed me off, and I could not pick up the book without thinking about the spoiler. Also, sorry if you can hear my cat or like my dog or anything or like any background noise, because I don't know what her issue is. But anyway, I just like, I saw the spoiler and it just made me not want to pick the book up, but I wanted to pick the book up, but then I couldn't read the book. So it was just like, oh my gosh, I completely forgot. I read Lights Out by Nevessa Allen in January. Completely forgot. Listened to the audiobook, got the physical book about 50% of the way through the audiobook. So I was like, yes, it's going to be a 5-star read. And then I'm unhauling that book because the ending just lost me. I think I rated it like a 3 or a 3.5. Like literally the whole second half of that book was just like, what? It was too much happening, but like also like nothing happening at the same time. Like there were just things like thrown into it. I mean, it just wasn't for me. There are a lot of people that like it. I do say like if you're going to read it, I would listen to the audiobook, because I do feel like if it wasn't for the audiobook, I would have DNF'd it. And I don't DNF books. So take that into account. That was also my way of trying to get out of my reading slump by literally listening to an audiobook. So I was like, okay, this should be helpful. It's a different genre. No, I barely even wanted to get through that. Anyway, so I didn't finish Iron Flame in January, but I did finish it in February. Thank God, because I was getting so fed up with not being able to read a book. Like you guys don't even understand. But I read Iron Flame, which is the second book in the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. Oh my gosh. People do not like this book. Like this one, everyone loves Fourth Wing, and then I feel like they read this one and they're like, they either didn't like it or it was hard to get through. I will say Fourth Wing is way more like romance heavy, whereas this one is way more political, more politics, more emphasis on the world building and the characters and all of that. The romance is more like a subplot in this one. I think going into it, if you have that mindset, you're better prepared for it, because you get introduced to a lot of new places, you get introduced to a lot of new characters, you find out a lot about backstories and people and what's going on and just everything. So it's a lot of information, and this book is thicker, but if you go into it with the mindset that the romance is a subplot and it's way more politically heavy, I think you will enjoy it more than if you were to think that it's going to be the exact same vibe as Fourth Wing, if that makes any sense. Once I finished this, again, Fourth Wing made me cry. This one made me cry. The cliffhanger at the end of Fourth Wing, holy shit. The cliffhanger at the end of this one, holy shit. I'm eating these books up and I cannot wait, like I said, to get to Onyx Storm. I just needed a break from fantasy after going back to back with those 2 books and then falling into that reading slump. And then at the time, Onyx Storm was just everywhere on my For You page. So there were so many spoilers, and I was just trying not to, like at one point I had to like stay off of TikTok because it was just constant like chatter about Onyx Storm, and I had to like completely just like scroll past every single video so I didn't ruin it for myself. And I was just waiting for the hype to be over because I needed to breathe. So took a break from that after I read this, but 5 stars, 10 out of 10, would recommend. Then I actually started The Accidental Pinup by Danielle Jackson. It's right here on my shelf. I just am too lazy to pick it up, so I'll have a picture of it. But I did start that. I got like 70% of the way through, and then Miss Ali Hazelwood released her newest book, Deep End, and I had to take a break from The Accidental Pinup to get to this book because I could not stop thinking about it. And I did finish this one, and oh oh my gosh. I rated this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It just didn't give me that 5-star feeling once again, which is so rare for Miss Ali Hazelwood because I have not read a book by her that I didn't rate 5 stars. This one is so good. It is about two Stanford athletes, one is a diver and one is a swimmer, who end up being friends with benefits in a very interesting way. It's actually very funny how they end up doing this, but they're basically into the same extracurricular activities, if you know what I mean. Oh my gosh. So Scarlett, our FMC, the character arc for her, I related to her on so many levels, not like as far as what she was actually going through, like the specific thing that she was going through, but overall just her journey and story. I related to it so much with her going to therapy, her mental block, her having to like rework her entire like mindset and how she thinks and how she carries herself. The character development for her and the character art was so good. I literally ate it up. That literally is, oh my gosh, I loved it. And the way that Lucas, our FMC, or not our FMC, our MMC was there for her and helped her through it all, and the way that they fell in love and just how they gradually became more and more just attracted to each other, and like their love story and like just the way that they spend time together. And I don't know, I just genuinely enjoyed this book. A lot of people, again, this is another book that's very controversial right now, and like I could see why, but I will say if you have not read any of Ali Hazelwood's other books, I would not start with this book. I would start with a different book before jumping into this one. And the reason that I say that is because this is more on the spicier side, but for her. It's not the spiciest book ever. It's spicier for her. Emphasis on the for her. So I think a lot of people just expected it to be like this very like 5 chili peppers like thing, and it's not. It's not. It's just very spicy for her, and people need to keep that in mind. With that being said, it's a strangers to friends with benefits to lovers type of ordeal. So if you don't like friends with benefits, this might not be for you, but I would still recommend it. And there is like the concept of like a love triangle, but it's not really a love triangle. And if you read it, like or if you have read it, then like you also kind of like understand what I'm saying. But if you haven't, if you do read it, you'll kind of understand what I mean by that. I enjoyed this book. There were parts that made me cringe a little bit, and I think it wasn't even necessarily in a bad way. It was just like, again, I'm used to her writing a certain type of way. So like her spicier scenes just really caught me off guard. They weren't bad, but they just caught me off guard. I was giggling, kicking my feet. I was rooting for, I was about to say Violet. That's not her name. I was rooting for Scarlett. They call her Vandy. And the found family in this was also chef's kiss. I also annotated this one. I didn't like tab it because the sprayed edges are gorgeous and I didn't want to mess that up. I took my time while reading it. I just had such a good time. That's it. I'm not going to ramble anymore about this book. I rated it 4.5 stars. Yes, I would recommend. I can't even get all of these in the frame, but that is my very large stack of books that I read in January and February. Overall, I feel like January and February were good reading months as far as I had a lot of good like 4-5-star reads. I may not have read as many books as I wanted to in February, but I'm not complaining because I ended up coming out with not a single book that was under 4 stars, which is always going to be top tier for me. I'm also just trying to be more mindful with my reads and just taking my time to genuinely enjoy the book. Yes, my reading goal for this year is 75 books, but I took my time with reading Deep End, Iron Flame, Fourth Wing, and I enjoyed them so much because I was taking my time. And I feel like if I would have tried to rush through them, not only would I have gone into a bigger reading slump than I was already in, but I also just feel like I wouldn't have enjoyed them as much, and it wouldn't have like really stuck with me as much as they did. So take that with a grain of salt, do as you please, but that's just kind of what I'm doing. It seems to be working for me. I'm really, really enjoying the reads that I have, and I cannot complain whatsoever. If you have read any of these, please let me know what you thought about them in the comments. If you also made it this far, please comment the heart emoji. If you made it this far in the video, or if you stayed until the end, I appreciate you so, so much. And also let me know what you guys are currently reading. I'm just super excited, and if there's any books that I should add to my already long, never-ending physical TBR. Actually, nope, do it, please, please. Happy reading, and bye, book besties.